How we doing? My name is Ryan B. Hebert, and welcome back to round 4. Thank you. Welcome back to round 4, everybody. I'm alongside Andy Anderson. Andy, how we doing today?
Doing pretty good. We've seen a lot of really interesting matches. We actually saw Pikachu on stream last round, so that was exciting.
We did. The one and only Max Simon bringing his classic Pikachu to the stage here and doing fantastic with it, as always. So, very exciting. Upcoming here in this next set, we have Careless Whisper versus Yoshi and Lugia. Yoshi and Lugia running a team very similar to Ryan Lazzetto. Is it the same? We'll find out in this upcoming set. And Careless Whisper running the Xerneas Groudon Incineroar team that is also pretty well known as well for having a special Groudon alongside that wonderful Kangaskhan Tornadus lead that we all know and love.
All right, looks like actually they've already gone and started up and gotten into turn 1 here. So we see the Amoonguss Xerneas from Yoshi and Lugia into the Xerneas Incineroar from Careless Whisper. So it'll be interesting. Both of them led with what's considered their strongest restricted Pokemon, but
Really big in this next turn. Because, if you choose to fake out the Incineroar, you can guarantee that if Yoshi Lugia goes for the Protect, you'll be able to knock out Incineroar with a Moonblast right off the bat. And there's the Protect from Xerneas. Fake out actually going into that Xerneas, not wanting to risk anything. And Dazzling Gleam, doing a fair amount of damage, not popping the berry on Incineroar on Yoshi Lugia's side of the field. That's important.
yeah, so it's a little bit of a weird situation to be in if you're Yoshi Lugia, because you've already lost your Amoonguss, and there's really not a lot of chance your Incineroar is going to make it out this turn. Of course, it'll probably faint to a Dazzling Gleam, and then Yoshi Lugia is almost tempted to have to go for Dazzling Gleam too because of the Kangaskhan's offensive pressure. And this is kind of the situation you get in when you have these Xerneas versus Xerneas mind games, or especially when you have both the Incineroars for support. But of course, Careless Whisper does have that secondary fake out option as well.
Kangaskhan going down to a Dazzling Gleam Protect, coming out from Careless Whisper's Xerneas, and Incineroar coming in with that fake out pressure. Oh, so important fake out pressure. Without it, I don't know where this game would be, Andy. But, I was curious if the Kangaskhan was going to have something like Sucker Punch, so it could get a little bit of chip damage into that opposing Xerneas, but we're not seeing anything like that revealed in this game 1. We'll see the Protect from Yoshi Lugia. Xerneas coming out here, and Dazzling Gleam taking that knockout on Incineroar on Yoshi Lugia's side of the field.
And we do see the last Pokemon from Yoshi and Lugia, which is that Rayquaza, the famous X-Ray duo that's been running rampant in Ultra Series. This is a very, very scary position to be in for Yoshi and Lugia. Of course, we don't know that Rayquaza's item, but we do see the Incineroar for Careless Whisper swap out, so this is going to be an interesting turn to see how it pans out.
We'll actually see Dazzling Gleam come out. Oh, critical hit on that Groudon, but Dragon Descent being targeted into that Rayquaza. The Incineroar switching out is super critical here. Yoshi Lugia doesn't have any more switch outs, which means that this Incineroar is free to come in and put a -1 onto Rayquaza's already astounding attack stat. So at this point in the game, Xerneas definitely does have a lot of chip, but that critical hit was a huge game changer now. Meaning that Groudon Primal goes down to almost anything from Yoshi Lugia's side of the field.
Yeah, at this point, you have to imagine it probably could faint from another Dazzling Gleam, and if that Rayquaza is holding something like a Focus Sash, then Yoshi and Lugia could potentially just pick up 2 very massive knockouts here and take this first game. It all depends on what that Rayquaza's item is, though. Hasn't been revealed yet, and that item is pretty much what this entire game is hinging on for both of these players. It's something like an Assault Vest. It could live a Dazzling Gleam potentially, but then again, maybe Careless Whisper reads him, that goes for a Moonblast, and then he still has the faster Xerneas the next turn. So it's all hinging on that Rayquaza and whatever it can bring to the table this next turn.
I can't imagine Careless was hoping for that critical hit Dazzling Gleam onto its Primal Groudon. And we will see the Moonblast coming out, going into Rayquaza, knocking it out completely. Dazzling Gleam coming out from the Xerneas on Yoshi Lugia's side of the field. Oh my goodness, here we are. Will Moonblast be enough from Careless's side of the field to pick up the knockout? That's what I'm wondering.
It's close. A lot of times it can be damage rolls, but it actually is enough to pick up that. So it looks like the first Moonblast might have been a lower damage roll, but Careless Whisper is going to take this first game in what has been one of the craziest games we've had all day. That was a very tight set.
Yoshi Lugia playing really nicely around the fact that, she lost to Amoonguss so early in the game, but was still able to keep up the pressure even until the final turn.
Yeah, and we did actually see that the Rayquaza's item is not Focus Sash. That's what we know. Typically these X-Ray teams carry Assault Vest, but every now and then you do see that Focus Sash that was so popular back in 2016. So even just knowing that one little piece of information, okay, well, it's not this one specific thing, can definitely change how it can be played around, because it does just faint to that Moonblast. And if it's Assault Vest, it might just not faint to a Dazzling Gleam if it's super bulky. So that's a little bit of information Careless Whisper has, but you gotta imagine Yoshi and Lugia has a little bit of more information to knowing, okay, well, I know what this item is, so I know how I can play around it a little bit more.
Once again, we run into this idea where we have a possible mold breaker Excadrill on Yoshi Lugia's side of the field, which would actually be quite effective against a few Pokemon on Careless's side of the field. But what is the thing that is stopping Yoshi and Lugia from bringing it?
It's tough, because, of course, we don't know how fast it is or what items it could be running. You have to imagine it could potentially be a Z move. It could also be a Focus Sash. It has a lot of offensive pressure, but at the same time, Intimidate's going to be a big hindrance. If Tailwind goes up, then suddenly, Groudon is just threatening potentially that one-hit knockout.
Mm-hmm. And it looks like Careless is going to start Tornadus Xerneas, and Yoshi Lugia is going to start Xerneas Amoonguss. Interesting lead. Most Tornadus running that flying type C move, super effective against Amoonguss.
Yeah, and I don't believe we saw that Amoonguss's item. So maybe if it's running something like a Koba Berry, it could live that Supersonic Sky Strike if that's what it has. Of course, Careless Whisper can just taunt it and prevent it from going for anything like a Rage Powder or a Spore, but it's tough because you don't want to accidentally let that other Xerneas set up.
And there it is, the Supersonic Sky Strike coming out, going into that Incineroar slot. Geomancy going up on Careless's side of the field, wasting no time. And Yoshi and Lugia responding with, you know what? I can go for it too. Double Geomancy on the field in the first turn. Gotta love it.
Yeah, and that Supersonic Sky Strike did pretty much exactly half to that Incineroar. maybe giving a little bit of idea as to what item it has. I don't believe we saw an item in the first game. Um, so maybe this will give him or give Yoshi and Lugia an opportunity to kind of play around that Xerneas and get rid of the partners, as we do see there.
We do see the fake out go into that Xerneas that protects on Careless' side of the field. Dazzling Gleam knocking out that Tornadus, and a free switch in for Primal Groudon to just unleash its reign of terror upon Incineroar and Xerneas.
Yeah, and this is it's a very sticky situation to be in because, of course, Incineroar, even if it had been able to get intimidated on that Groudon, would not be able to survive Precipice Blades. Alternatively, we don't know for sure if Yoshi and Lugia's Xerneas can survive a Precipice Blades or a Fire Punch, plus a Moonblast into that slot. So it's going to be very tricky. Of course, if Yoshi and Lugia can safely get that Moongus back in, it might offer a little bit of assistance with that, but doesn't look like that's what we're going to see here.
And we will see Dazzling Gleam, Moonblast, Roar coming out from that Primal Groudon. Oh, the ever so fun Roar. A great use of the move, but this is actually a really not a bad situation, I gotta say. If the Amogus is to Rage Powder here, it forces the Xerneas to go for a Dazzling Gleam, and if that's Assault Vest Rayquaza, then it could possibly live it, but we're not even going to get to see that. E-Speed going into Primal Dawn, it will not be enough, but Eruption just will not be able to do anything. Sitting at 1 HP.
That Eruption, I had a physical reaction of just sadness. My whole countenance just changed watching how little damage that did to these Pokemon.
Yes.
But that is good information for Yoshi and Lugia to have. That it's potentially a mixed Groudon, so maybe it won't be able to put out quite as much pressure offensively with a Precipice Blades or anything else like that. If this goes to a Game 3. We still don't know that Rayquaza's item. We know it's not Focus Sash. So a lot of it's going to hinge on what happens this turn with this Amoonguss and this Rayquaza if it's able to survive.
E-Speed coming out from that Mega Rayquaza, Moonblast going into it, knocking it out, and Spore going into that Xerneas slot.
Yeah, that was probably about the safest play at that point Yoshi and Lugia can make, trying to get rid of that Groudon. No reason to really make predictions at that point, because if you're already playing kind of on the back foot, it's tough to make those kind of reads. Of course, we probably will see the Incineroar go for a fake out to stop any shenanigans from Amoonguss, like a clear Smog, but Yoshi and Lugia's Xerneas has already used its Power Herb too, so it's going to be a little bit of a long game here as these Xerneas go back and forth, trying to kind of set up each other.
And so interesting, Careless just deciding to try to go for the knockout on Amoonguss, but sadly it is not enough to knock it out. And so Clear Smog gets off, clearing away those boosts on Xerneas, and so now we're kind of back to a level playing field here where Geomancy just goes off on Xerneas, raising those stats once again. And so in just moments, Yoshi and Lugia has turned the tide of this game, and with a Primal Groudon in the back at 1 HP, this could be a pretty close game.
Yeah, and it depends if that Xerneas wakes up. It actually does not, and it is able to just barely hang on that Dazzling Gleam, but it's hard to say if that's really going to be enough for Careless Whisper at this point to hang on.
Mm-hmm. Careless going for that fake out, the wake up, Moonblast, and it will not be enough. Careless given the GG, accepting his fate in this second game here. Both players 1-1 going into this game 3. Once again, Yoshi and Lugia pivoting well around that Amoonguss, but taking a little bit better care of the Amoonguss in this second game, I gotta say. Overall, when it came down to the leads, I think that first turn switch into the Incineroar, preserving that Amoonguss for later in the game, is what I think really did it for Yoshi and Lugia.
Yeah, I think after seeing the potential surprise bit of KO in Game 1 from that Incineroar into the Amoonguss, maybe Yoshi and Lugia thought that their Amoonguss was trained in a way that it could live a maybe less offensive Incineroar's Flare Blitz. Probably seeing that KO Game 1 made them realize, okay, well, I've got to be a lot more careful with this, because this is probably my win con in this matchup.
I agree with you. And so looking forward towards this third battle here, both players, I think it's going this in this game. It's funny. Since Careless doesn't have an Amoonguss, it's not an Amoonguss versus Amoonguss game, which we saw previously. But now we're seeing Incineroar Xerneas and Tornadus Xerneas. Both players swapped on the screen here just for a moment, but okay, so Fake Out coming out from Incineroar, going into that Tornadus slot, and Geomancy coming right out from Careless on the field right now.
Yeah, that was pretty much the only play either of them could have made at that point. Of course, Tornadus probably went for something like a taunt into that Xerneas just to maybe if Yoshi and Lugia had gone for a read and not faked out with the Tornadus. But, we're kind of in this position every single game so far where Xerneas and Xerneas fully set up and then just kind of picking off slowly the partner Pokemon.
And Yoshi once again getting into this really dangerous position of Primal Groudon and Geomancy Xerneas on the field versus her Incineroar with a little bit more health this time and her Geomancy Xerneas. We now know that Groudon also has Roar, and Yoshi has plenty of Pokemon in the back for that Xerneas to be swapped into. So very curious to see if Careless will go for more of an attacking stance here, or if it's just going to go for that Roar into the Xerneas.
Yeah, we've seen that Groudon didn't appreciate any of the Moonblasts or Dazzling Gleams in the previous games, but we are going to see the double up with the Flare Blitz and Dazzling Gleam. Leave Groudon on 1 HP again. That is a big, bulky lizard, just barely hanging on, and it does go for the Roar. Wow, Careless Whisper is in a phenomenal position now.
Phenomenal position, and also, this is just a great spot for if Careless brought Incineroar in the back, would be a perfect switch in to get the Intimidates off onto Rayquaza and that Incineroar. But it looks like we're just going to see Protect from Groudon, E-Speed from that Rayquaza, and Moonblast coming out from Xerneas, knocking out that Rayquaza. One restricted down, Incineroar coming onto the field versus an Amoonguss Incineroar now.
Yeah, no reason to get cheeky there and try to play a little risky, but at that point, anything at this point is going to KO that Groudon, but Xerneas is still a little bit of a precarious spot because it can't reliably KO the Amoonguss. Of course, Fake Out's probably going to go into that Groudon, it could go into that Xerneas as well. It depends on whatever Yoshi and Lugia perceives as being the bigger threat in this particular situation.
And Groudon going down for the count, and this is actually a very interesting turn now. How is Careless going to be able to take care of this Amoonguss? Well, it may seem like everything is okay having a Geomancy Xerneas. These next couple of turns are really going to come down to whether or not that Amoonguss is able to preserve itself and do some effective Xerneas stomping, so to speak, with Clear Smog or even Spore.
Yeah, you have to imagine a Dazzling Gleam plus Flare Blitz would be enough to knock it out, but of course Amoonguss could potentially protect itself from any of that damage, as Yoshi and Lugia could switch back in Xerneas or potentially go for a U-turn if it's not KO'd with by Dazzling Gleam. But yeah, it looks like Careless Whisper's kind of got Yoshi and Lugia a little bit on the ropes here, playing on the back foot. It's still not over, but it's those Tailwind turns and especially that survival with the Flare Blitz and the Moonblast with the Groudon were just huge for Careless Whisper staying in this game and keeping that momentum up and able to get that Roar off. Was able to clear the field of that Xerneas. So it's been a tough 3 games, but Yoshi and Lugia has played it so well. Maybe they see an out that they can still kind of wiggle in there and try to take this game 3.
Yoshi Lugia really wanting to be sure that was the right move for her to make. And it looks like a double knockout occurs here with the Dazzling Gleam and their Flare Blitz, leaving the one and only Little Shroom against the world.
Yeah, usually Amoonguss is kind of decent about taking on multiple Pokemon at the same time. With just being able to survive so many attacks. But in this particular situation, it's not gonna appreciate either a Moonblast or a Flare Blitz. So it looks like Careless Whisper is probably gonna take this set and I believe advance to 4-0, which should be enough for top cut, which is very exciting.
Very exciting. In this tournament of a $65 prize pot, also other smaller goodies as well. Good games to Careless Whisper on his 2-1 victory over Yoshi and Lugia. Well played by both of these players. Both of them using some of the top archetypes in the game, and so it's just very very exciting to see. We only have a couple more matches that are finishing up here, and they're both players acknowledging in the chat that isn't shown on screen that there might have been a roll or two here and there that really did matter for the battles, but overall that's how Pokemon is played. That's how it works. And yeah, Andy.
Yeah, that was a really good set. There might have been a little bit of luck there with some of the damage, rolls being a little bit unfavorable for one or the other player, but that was still a very tight set. And I have no doubt that it's possible we can see both these players in the finals just because they played this set so well. It was so back and forth. I have no doubt that they could both do really well in this tournament.
Absolutely, Andy. So, folks, stay tuned. We will be right back with more content. And don't forget to go check out the Mount Silver Gamer Jibe Lounge to see the live updated bracket alongside the live Twitch stream that you may be watching on Twitch right now. Also, if you find time in between rounds, head on over and play Laser Girl in the Laser Girl Lounge on Gamer Jibe. Laser Girl is a new RTS game that is very fun, very exciting, and overall just fun little game to play in between rounds if you find yourself looking for something to do and listening to the stream and to our voices at the same time. So, folks, be sure to stay tuned. We'll be back with round 5 very shortly.